Welcome back to #Africa, and we're very excited to introduce a new feature on the show. So every week we'll be taking you and your taste buds on a tour of the African continent. This is Dining In. It boasts a rich cuisine and history to match. This week we're dining Ethiopian style. Injera, which is a kind of flatbread, is the country's staple dish and is often used instead of cutlery or crockery. And to give us a taste, we're joined by the owner and chef at Little Addis Cafe in Johannesburg, Kasa Gebrahana. Kasa, many thanks for your time this evening. So maybe just give us a little sense of what you have plated out for us this evening.
Thank you, Rufi. We are excited to be here. This week we prepared a typical Ethiopian traditional food, which is a mixture of like meat and vegetables. And we prepared you two different dishes. One is a strictly vegan, and the other one is the meat option as well. So we have the beef, the chicken, and the lamb, and the rest are vegans like lentils, spinaches, chickpea gravies, pumpkin, cabbage, dal. You mix them all up and you dish it up on the injera. Yeah,
and why do we have that separate, the vegan as well as the meat dishes? Is there any cultural significance?
Actually, it does, because as you know, Ethiopia is a predominant Christian country, and also on top of that, the Christian and the Muslim lives together. Sometimes when the Muslims don't want to eat meat, we have the vegan option. And the other big part of having vegan is actually in Ethiopia, more than 60% of the population is Christian. So in that Christian community, the oldest church in Africa, that is the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, when we fast, we become a complete vegan. So you have to have a vegan option as well.
Well, it looks very delicious, and I'm sure we'll get into tasting in a moment.
Yes.
But talk us through some of the spices that are used and the cultural importance, the historical importance of the spices that are used when preparing traditional Ethiopian meals.
Okay, the major spice here is what we call berbere. Berbere is a cayenne pepper, which is a spiced up between like 15 to 17 different type of spices together. So we use that to cook most of our dishes. And the other one is turmeric. Turmeric, you can find turmeric everywhere. So we use those two major spices and we cook with them. Unless the dish is vegan, we also use what we call kebe. That's Ethiopian organic butter, purified butter, which is spiced up as well. It has its own spice. So we use that on the meat dishes, sometimes on the vegan when it's not a vegan season.
So what are the vegetables that we've used here? I see some greens. I think you mentioned the cabbage and the lentils, but some of the vegetables are base foods that are really important when putting these dishes together.
For example, the lentils, it's obvious, we always use the lentils, and the different thing here is the chickpea gravy. The chickpea gravy, we have two types of it. One is plain, which we use turmeric to spice it up, and the other one is the red one, which has cayenne pepper as well. So that might be a bit different kind of like dish, but the rest is like the dish, like the spinach. The spinach is, we cook it the way Ethiopians cook it. Like, we don't just boil it, or we add spices to it. For instance, we add maybe rosemary to it, or maybe basil to it, and so that it can give you some flavor. The other one is the yellow split peas, or dal. That is actually my favorite because it has its own taste. And we use turmeric on that as well. And on the cabbage, we use turmeric on that as well. So we spice it up the way we want to. Well, the one thing that is completely different from the vegetable side is the way we cook pumpkin. Pumpkin has to be cooked with cayenne pepper, or what we call berbere. So that's what we use.
Very interesting. So I want you to teach me how we would put together this dish on a piece of your flatbread, which you call, what is the name of it again?
It's called Injera.
Injera. So
Yes.
let's just teach me how we put it together, and then you can just tell me about the Injera. And I know it's got a bit of a sour taste to it as well, from what I've experienced in Ethiopian dining. So how exactly would I put a bite to eat together here?
Okay. And now, the first thing you have to remember is, are you eating meat or are you vegan? If you are vegan, which means you have to avoid the meat part.
Okay, so I'm going to be chicken, and I'm going to go for the chicken.
Okay, if you are going for a chicken, a full-blown chicken, this is the chicken that we cooked. And as you can see, it's a bit of like a different way of cooking.
Very soft texture to it.
Yes, it's really soft because we use onion, lots of onion in it, and lots of paprika in it. So this is the chicken part. And you can use any part of the meat of the chicken, but I prefer to use drumsticks because most people like drumsticks.
Yeah.
So we use a drumstick. For instance, this is the chicken.
Okay, so I break a piece off?
Yes, you break the piece off.
So I would break a piece off of the Injera and then just...
Exactly.
Oh, and it's very delicious, and you can taste those spices that you were talking about earlier, not too hot.
Not too hot.
Which is what I was afraid of.
No, not too hot, because those spices kill the burning side of the cayenne pepper. So it gives you flavor, it gives you taste.
I'm going to have another piece while you talk, and I want you to just maybe explain the difference between the injeras that you've presented for us this evening. Okay,
the injera we presented today is two types. Like when you go to Ethiopia, you will get the brown injera. That is made out of what we call teff. Teff is a grain, the super food, healthy, and depending on the colors, sometimes you get 80% of the iron, or sometimes you get 90% of the iron. The rest is minerals and vitamins. You do not get starch or gluten in Ethiopian diet that much, unless you want to mix gluten and starch in your food.
I can tell you it's very delicious.
Yes, and the other one, the white one, is made out of rice flour. So when we don't have a chance to access teff, we get rice flour.
Can I have a little bit of that one?
Oh, yes,
Just
yes.
a quick taste.
Dig in.
I'm digging in. I think you could taste the difference as well between the two.
Yes.
Very different
yes.
flavors there.
The teff tastes a bit nutty flavor. The rice one is just a normal sour bread.
A little bit of a sour.
Yes, yes.
It's been such an amazing experience, and I think I'm going to be tasting a little bit of everything when we're done here. So thank you very much for coming this evening. I've been speaking there to the owner and chef at Little Addis Cafe, Casa Gerebrahana. Next week, we'll be looking at the distinctive cuisine of another African country in Dining In. Let's now take a look at some of the topics dominating social media across the continent. A rather unusual suspect in this financial investigation, a gorilla in Nigeria, is the prime suspect in 270,000 rand of missing park funds. Officials at the Kano Zoological Gardens say the gorilla swallowed the gate fees, an explanation for the missing park funds that many are not buying. Social media users are turning their profile pictures into blue, this to show solidarity with the people of Sudan. Demonstrations in the country's capital continue, with protesters demanding the immediate transfer of power to a civilian government. Over 100 people have been killed during the protests just this month. Some social media users in Tanzania have taken to social media to express their displeasure about the new wig tax. The government recently decided to impose a 25% tax on wigs and hair extensions. While supporters of the levy say this means women will keep their hair natural, those opposing it feel it's a punishment. And on that note, that's it for this week's edition of #Africa. Remember, you can talk to us on Twitter. Our handle is @Africa_ENCA. Until next time, from me, Ropiwa Madzana, and the rest of the team, take care.